Welcome to the reality check. Sorry for being late today, but I had to go through my inclusion and diversity meeting that we had scheduled here, so that's why I'm late today. Now, do I make this stuff up about diversity and inclusion meetings? No, absolutely not. We see it every day. And funny, I today was at IKEA, and guess what? Well, you guessed it right. It was a little bit after 10 when they opened up. I was walking in to do my shopping, get in, get out, because I had a lot of other stuff to do today. And voila, IKEA. They called for their inclusion and diversity meeting. Please come up front, employees, and attend our inclusion and diversity meeting. You want to talk about price increases, a waste of production, a waste of company assets, a waste of time. That, my friends, is it. What a waste of time. And that's not what we came here to talk about today, right? So, there are huge topics across the news. Yes, many stories. We can talk about Jeff Sessions. We can talk about the National Guard going to the border. We can talk about Syria. We can talk about porn stars getting paid. Well, first, we have to lead off with, of course, obviously we know after UFC, we have a UFC review. And most of that, my friends, was destroyed by one moron, Conor McGregor. Now, this clown, I tell you, what lunacy. He threw a guardrail, he threw a two-wheeler at a bus, broke the window, hurt other fighters, canceled 2 fights because of him, single-handedly ruined half the card. Now, it's crazy. I think Dana White is way too lenient with him. I know this guy's a moneymaker and whatnot, but, obviously this guy has no control at all. His life is spiraling out of control. I'm sure this guy's blown most of his money, and what he didn't blow already, it's going to be gone from lawsuits and whatnot. It's just amazing. What a buffoon. I can't believe that, Dana White should even stay away from talking about this guy fighting. If I'm Dana White, I'd just say, this guy's got a legal battle, like he said at one point about John Jones. This guy's got a legal battle. He has to take care of that. When that gets all taken care of, that gets all squared away. Maybe serves prison time or not. Who knows? Probably not, because I'm sure he has good attorneys. But at the end of that, then maybe we'll see where it's at with him. But, to be honest, once that legal situation's addressed, if I'm Dana White, now I want him to make a public apology, not only to UFC fans, but to fighters. These guys' livelihoods were taken away, like Ray Borg. His livelihood was taken away. Not only, could his eye be messed up permanently, and I read just idiots talking about, oh, no big deal, a cornea abrasion. Okay. Yeah, one, you get glass in your eye, like you're going to want to get punched in the eye by somebody. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And Michael Chisley at him, cut on the face. These people don't need it. They don't need that problem. They're trying to earn a living just like anybody else. And you have some moron who ruins it for them and ruins it for the fans. And this whole, they'll give you a refund on the tickets because half the good fights were canceled. People don't get the damage. Okay, let's say you live in LA or California, somewhere, even Arizona, and you're flying out to New York. You're renting a hotel room. You paid for airfare. Maybe your buddy came from somewhere else to meet you there. You're buying tickets to this event. Wow, they're going to refund you tickets to the events. Now you're going to sit at home or sit in a hotel room and do nothing now during that time, or go out somewhere. You've spent all this money. The airfare is the money. The hotel is the money. The rental car is the money. I'm sure you went to stuff, during fight day, during weddings. You went to that. You bought tickets for that. And they're going to refund your ticket money? That's really irrelevant to you. You spent, maybe $2 to $3 grand on a trip, and they're going to give you back $300-400. And so now you just took the trip for nothing, your main event. Think about it. Think about, just unbelievable. Yeah, I don't know. That's like you go flying out to go see a Stanley Cup game or something that's supposed to be at 7 p.m. and you're flying in that day, and they're like, oh, by the way, we switched it to 10 a.m. Sorry, you missed the game. And if you want a refund, you can have it. Yeah, this just ruins your whole trip, a waste of your time. So some of the bouts, of course. So as we go over this UFC review, most of the predictions were null and void because a lot of the fights, obviously the Ray Borg, Brandon Moreno fight totally canceled. Al Iaquinta was supposed to fight Paul Felder. That one didn't happen. Iaquinta actually fought Habib. And then, which had nothing to do with Conor in a way, because in a way Holloway was supposed to fight, but they deemed him unfit, only in New York. And then Michael Chisley, Anthony Pettis. So Anthony Pettis was totally taken off the card. And then, so we had a bunch of different fights. So going through the prelims, the ones I had predicted, Evan Dunham versus Oliver Aubin-Mercier. I had a second round submission for Oliver. It ended up being a first round TKO. I mean, he was just really impressive. Came after Dunham and just what an onslaught. That was just really even better than we thought. So he could be one of the top Canadian fighters right now. Joe Lazan versus Chris Grudesmacher. I had a second round submission for Joe Lazan, but it ended up being a second round TKO stoppage for Chris. Lazan just, I guess age is catching up with him, which it does with certain fighters. The guy's always been able to take a beating. You never questioned Joe Lazan's heart, and he always held in there, and he would eventually overcome it and just fight back and find a way to get you subbed out or hit you and knock you out. And in this fight, when he got hit in the first round, he just never recovered. He didn't look the same, and he was just sitting there, taking a beating. It was just bad. Unfortunately, he's getting near the end of his career, Lazan, and this Chris Grudesmacher, I don't know, they made it like he was a really good fighter. I just think that was more of Joe Lazan just starting to look his age, sadly. So then the next fight that we actually had a chance to predict was Carolina Kolkiewicz against Felice Herring. And what it was, I predicted was a split decision, and it exactly was that. I think Carolina, though, controlled most of the fight. I mean, Felice Herring is definitely the stronger fighter, but Carolina was just nonstop, technical. I mean, in, out, hit, combinations, 3-4, and she wore Herring down. Herring couldn't use most of her power. I mean, it was pretty much the way I saw it. I think she's definitely next in line for a title shot. She was ranked 4th. I mean, yeah, I definitely see she could be one of two possible fighters that should be contending for the title, which we'll get to that fight later. So on the main card, obviously, the Iaquinta Paul Felder was canceled. And the Pettis fight was canceled. And then the Renato Moicano fight versus Calvin Kattar. That, was interesting. It was an interesting fight. Moicano's only loss was to Brian Ortega. And I said he would win by a split decision. It actually was a unanimous decision. He pretty much laid it on Kattar. I mean, he just outclassed him. I mean, Kattar is a decent fighter, but Moicano just outclassed him. I mean, kick, leg, kick, leg, kick, leg, kick. I mean, it was pretty amazing how he just very smart game plan, and one that I thought should be implemented later in some fight that we saw, which we'll get to, and it wasn't. But yeah, just really good, Moicano, and what a good game plan. What more can you say? He just dominated that fight with the leg kicks, totally just overrode. So I mean, that was pretty much that fight. It's just Moicano just outsmarted Kattar. So in the co-main event, let's see here. Sorry, I'm distracted. I gotta be honest here. I'm just looking at something. I was trying to find an easy answer to say. There was something I remember I wanted to mention, and oh well. So anyway, in the co-main event, we had the Rose Namajunas versus Joanna Jevchenko. Yes, I butchered the name. I don't know why. I hear it in my head, but man, sometimes sometimes it just doesn't come out right. I guess that's what I could say. So in that co-main event fight, Rose coming into the champion, she just destroyed Joanna in the first round, and that was the fight that, like, just like the Moicano fight, how Moicano kicked legs. I mean, I was sitting there watching this fight, and it was just strange. Like, why wasn't Joanna kicking in the first 2 rounds? That was a huge weapon for her. I thought that Rose had no answer to it. If you look at it, you count up the third, fourth, and fifth round. I mean, I think Joanna had about 16 kicks, and Rose only checked 2 of them. You saw how battered, just in the third round alone, with what she did, how battered Rose's legs got. I mean, they were red. It was horrible. And yet, she just let Rose have her way the first 2 rounds. No leg kicks. And Rose was beating her first 2 rounds. And I thought Joanna came back and won the third and fourth round. And you could see it looked like Rose was fading a little bit in the fourth, but Rose, great heart. She came out in the fifth round and took it right at Joanna, which I still don't understand. If she had the leg kick, that slows down her rhythm, and it would make her combinations less effective, because every time you get hit, she'd have to retreat a little, especially with her leg hurting. It would ruin some of her power. I don't know why. Joanna's corner was not even talking to her about leg kicks. I mean, I don't know, and they did not. I mean, I don't know. As a cornerman, you have to you are not winning this fight, or it's even. You need to win this round decisively to take that title back, especially when you're coming in as a challenger. You have to do something to rip that title from the champ, and she didn't do it. I mean, it was a pretty, uninspired fifth round for somebody going for their belt back, and it was a close fight to me. I mean, I had predicted that it would be a win for Joanna, a unanimous decision, and it became, I don't know what the judges were watching, but it was 4-1 as all the judges had it scored on Rose's side, and she retained the belt. Good for her. It was a gutsy effort, but I mean, I think for Joanna, what a lost opportunity. If she started those leg kicks early and she came out with some fire in the fifth round, especially if she would have been leg kicking that whole time, Rose wouldn't have had much left in the gas tank, and she could have just had her way. I mean, that's just a missed opportunity. And, for her, it's just going to take a while to get another championship fight. And I don't see her being able to go up a weight class. She's just not big enough. I mean, she's just going to have to work at it again. And maybe if somebody else wins the title from Rose, she'll have a chance. But, to fight them. But I don't know. That was just poor game planning. As much as Rose won that fight, I think Joanna lost that fight. Her corner was just not good. I don't know. The people she surrounds herself with they're just not good. So before we get to the main event, which obviously my predictions don't mean much because I didn't have that fight predicted, but the fight of the night, Kyle Bochniak against Zabib Magomedov-Shapirov, or something like that, long last name, but he's the guy that I've said to be watching, and I had some guests at my house, UFC party as always, and I told them, watch out. It's going to be fun to see this guy in the main card. It will be exciting. He will be exciting. And let me tell you, I know Bosniak had heart, but man, he even showed more heart. To take the beating he took, I mean, it was unbelievable, Zubby. I mean, this guy was all over the place. I mean, the significant strikes, I mean, it was a 2-1 takedowns, 5-0 Zabib had won. Just the total strikes, he had 70 more strikes than Bosniak had. And he was laughing about it. He thought it was fun. His face was all busted up. I mean, what heart. And these guys, Zabib could have even just taken him down at the end to put on the show for the fans. I mean, that was one of the fights that really turned around this card, which could have totally been sabotaged by Conor McGregor's stupidity. But, I mean, unbelievable, just the heart that both those fighters showed. And the fact they finished standing up, just swinging for the fences. I mean, good for the fans, good for us to see such a good fight. That's what we want to see. I mean, the heart. And I think both their stocks, of course, Zabib. I mean, this guy's moving on up the charts. I mean, he's probably 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot. For Kyle, no shame there. I mean, what a good performance. That's somebody you could definitely put on a pay-per-view if he's going to show you that. I'm sure although he got outclassed in this fight, I think he probably learned something. I mean, that's a good learning experience. It's not fun to lose, but definitely a good learning experience, to take that beating, to see somebody with that skill. Maybe he learns from that and gets better. And maybe one day these guys meet down the road for a more meaningful match, like for a title or something like that. It might happen. But what a fight, and a fight of the night, definitely indeed. So we had the main event, and then you had a little controversy surrounding that. So it was Habib versus Iaquinta. Now, I think that was a pretty good matchup. I mean, for Iaquinta, he's like one of the home run hitters. This guy has tremendous power. So at any point, you could be dominating him. He hits you, and it could be lights out. And the guy's definitely on his heart, you know. So, I mean, obviously, we thought it would be Max Holloway fighting, but he was not allowed to fight, couldn't cut any more weight. And Iaquinta was definitely the best. I'd rather see him than Paul Felter, and definitely better than Anthony Pettis, because Anthony Pettis is just a shell of himself. Until he proves otherwise, he is just a shell of himself. So I was happy to see Iaquinta get the chance. You know, and it was just basically an onslaught by Habib. And I was really weird. Like, I know Rogan took some heat, Joe Rogan, for saying Habib had weaknesses, and everyone's like, he has weaknesses. And I hear the announce like, oh, Max Holloway and, you know, Tony Ferguson are looking at this thinking, oh, man, we're going to do this and that to him. Look, Habib just came out and was a wet blanket all over Iaquinta. He had him, he beat him, he was beating him. The two things that ever concern me about Habib is, one, he doesn't seem to have that finishing touch like the greats have. I mean, he has the most amazing wrestling out of anybody. He goes in there and he just finds a way to get you down, whether it's a trip, whether it's just keep on pushing into you. I mean, it seems like when he really wants to get a takedown, he could get it. Most amazing wrestling. I mean, just, and funny, him from being from Dagestan, and Zabib, the guy from Friday Night, was from Dagestan. Amazing. Two guys from the same area. But with Habib, it's finishing people that kind of scares me. And then sometimes it seems like he just wants to play around. And I think that's what he did near the end of this fight with Al. He stood up and he started punching. And he's just not very good at it. And hope maybe that helps him. But, man, people just saying, like, oh, he's not going to be able to box somebody like this who's fresh, you know, this and that, all those excuses. That's the point, though. This guy wears you out in 2 rounds, and in the 3rd round, he might stand with you, or the 4th round, he might stand with you. I mean, to be honest, it seemed like he didn't even want to get the takedown. He shot in a few times to keep Iaquinta honest, but he just wanted to box. And, yeah, his boxing isn't tight. He doesn't hit super hard, but, man, look at what he did to Iaquinta's face. He was popping that jab at will, pretty much. And, yeah, like when you hear Max Holloway or Ferguson or the announcers or commentators even after on the post-fight show talking about, well, he's not going to do this in the first round. Conor McGregor, that's the point. He wears you down so much that he'll impose his will on your game style later. He's not like John Jones, where John Jones comes out and will impose your game plan on you. If you're a wrestler, he will wrestle you right away. That's not... Habib's going to wrestle you down, take you down, get on top of you, wear you down. And then in the 4th and 5th rounds, yeah, he's going to come on to your style. If you want to box, he will do that with you. And he's outboxing you. Not because he's better than you, because you're tired, yes. But they think like that's going to mean something. It won't. He's not going to do it until you're tired. So, yes, he will outbox you when you're tired. And that's his point. He's smart enough to know not to do that in the beginning. And later on, yes, does it give people a chance? Sure, Iaquinta could have knocked him out, and that's the one thing that is scares me about him. I think he does a little bit too much. Maybe with 30, 40 seconds at the end of a fight, yeah, great job. You can afford to do that and take that chance. But, you know, he is who he is, just like Anderson Silva, man. That almost scariness, excitement is what makes him really good. I mean, that's why Anderson Silva, sometimes you look at his fights and you're like, oh my God, what is he doing? He's setting himself up for failure, but he knows what he's doing, or he's just taking a chance. He doesn't care. He's going to fight through it, and he's going to win. So in that sense, a good card overall. Thank goodness. A lot of people stepped up, but it was disappointing to miss out on some fights. Thanks to that moron Conor McGregor, and I don't know. I mean, would I suspend him forever? No, I wouldn't say that, but like I said, Dana White, put him on the sides and make him get through his legal troubles. And when he's all finished with that, you definitely have to teach him a lesson, suspend him, fine him. We need public apologies to all the fighters on that bus and to the UFC community of fans. And from there, you know, we can move on with that. So that's the end of the UFC review. You know, so now, time to talk politics, what we've all been waiting for. Now, we know it's time. It is time to fire Jeff Sessions. They say this all the time. And today, the next Attorney General, in my mind, made their point today. Ted Cruz. You saw him stand up to a certain CEO. We won't name names, but today he was questioning him and had good questions. And, Ted Cruz just showed you how thorough he is with his job. Where Jeff Sessions, what do we got from Jeff Sessions? I mean, nothing. Here's Ted Cruz grilling people, getting to the bottom of facts, talking about the bias of the left wing and holding people out. And where's Jeff Sessions again? Recuses himself for this. No comment on the out-of-control FBI and Mueller just coming and taking Trump's lawyer Cohen stuff. I mean, what do we got from Jeff Sessions? Really nothing. He needs to go. I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I hear people holding out hope like Jeff Sessions is going to do something. Jeff Sessions is doing this. Jeff Sessions is doing that. And he's just sitting there watching the President of the United States under full assault. Under full assault. He's done nothing. About the crimes you could see clean and clear, he's done nothing. Jeff Sessions has just been non-existent in his job. I mean, the fact that he's recused himself, the fact that he just, I don't know, he sits there. I mean, now we have Mueller investigating the latest scam as if it's not the Stormy Daniels payment, then it's some $150,000 donation from a Ukrainian businessman made to Trump's charity in 2015. Yet Jeff Sessions stood there while the same person that Mueller's investigating donated $13 million to the Clinton Foundation. Doesn't it seem odd? Anybody? No, maybe. Yeah, I think it's very odd. So, once again, Ted Cruz, yes. Jeff Sessions, now time to go away. Even if you don't hire Ted Cruz, hire somebody else. I mean, Jeff Sessions is just worthless. He's just worthless. There's nothing he's doing. He's doing nothing of any value. Yeah, going after MS-13 is great. It should be done. But that's I don't know, like easy stuff. It's like going to an NRA rally and say, I'm for gun rights, I'm for gun rights. That's good, but that's just the easy stuff. That's the gravy. You're throwing sprinkles to kids. They love it, of course. But now let's go to something challenging. Let's step up. Let's do something more. And Jeff Sessions, that's just not happening, sadly. Sadly, we see none of that happening with him. So unfortunately, an F- again for Jeff Sessions. So let's see another question. Will the National Guard strengthen the border? Well, that's a poignant question. It's not really the National Guard. They want to strengthen the border, but it's who in charge of them. Remember when Janet Napolitano, who's running the California College now, she's running Cal, when she was governor of Arizona, I want to puke and vomit in my mouth every time I remember that or say that. But when she was when she was running Arizona into the ground, as she did, Napolitano, we had the National Guard at the border for her fake, we're securing Arizona. And what were they doing? We found out that they were doing oil changes on cars. They were just there with their vehicles. They weren't allowed to have their guns ready. Nothing. They did nothing. Not because of the National Guard, but because of who's in charge of that. It's just like, the boys in Benghazi. They were doing nothing because they were told to do nothing. They weren't allowed to do anything. And it took a few great soldiers to break out of that and to do something to try to help out. And that's what we have with the National Guard. So this time around, I think we're in better shape. I think we have a shot at the National Guard helping strengthen the border. You hear the lie about how Mexico disperses the caravan and we're separating them and all this bogus stuff. It's just a fraud. I mean, CNN, they had a reporter that was covering the caravans movement through Mexico and towards the U.S. in recent weeks. And they asked the travelers where they intended to go. And, all the people said, we're going to the United States to seek asylum. They always try to make these, they're going to stay in Mexico. Some aren't. Some are going here. They're fleeing violent gangs that control the areas in Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador. And basically, all you hear from them is they're coming to America to seek asylum. Well, we need to stand up to Mexico and say, you're taking them in under asylum if that's what you believe. You can't let them through your border. You need to stop them. Because it's not asylum. Your asylum is the first country you hit. That's where you ask for asylum. So these people are in Mexico. They should be asking Mexico for asylum. If Mexico doesn't want to take them, well, the public will know that, and that'll be up to Mexico to return them to their country. Not us, not for us to get involved in. We're not the country of asylum. Mexico is, because they're the first country they hit. Okay? So that keeps us out of this. We don't need to be part of it. People aren't going to tell us their demands or when they're coming in and whatnot. Sorry, that's not the way it works. This is a funded group. If these people cared about the poor treatment they're getting in these countries, maybe they should boycott these countries. Maybe they should do something financially to help them out in their own country instead of trying to just impose their will here and we're going to take the brunt of it. It doesn't seem right. Like all the time they talk about poor people coming up from Mexico and they just want a chance and they just want this. Well, why don't we say something about Mexico? When Vicente Fox, that POS, was, the leader of Mexico, and now he's their hero. They talk about how great Vicente Fox was. Where were people saying, hey, why are you people fleeing? Why are they running into this country? Because your country was so crime-ridden and bad. Why don't you do something about it? Why don't they find something to do something about it in Mexico? It makes no sense. Why aren't you upset with Mexico for not controlling the crime in their country? Another bad thing we have, speaking of border and stuff, one of the Delaware ports is about to be sold. And, you almost can't believe it. So, one of the port, Wilmington in Delaware, is about to be sold to Gulf Tanner. It's a Middle East-based company overseen by Dr. Hamad Jafar. That's Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction chief. And it's owned by his sons. This company, Gulf Tanner, they operate Florida's Port Canaveral cargo container terminal. Even though they have, they had ties to Saddam Hussein's nuclear weapon program, and they also are with some Russian technologies. Yet we're letting them buy a port. It's funny. We need to put a stop to this, like we did years ago when one of these companies tried to buy one of our ports or take over port security, I think it was. And actually, Michael Savage is one of the people that stepped up and helped, and hopefully he steps up here and get everyone on the same page. Was it Obama's administration handed over Port Canaveral's cargo containers to the brother of Saddam Hussein's chief nuclear physicist, Dr. Jafar, Dali Jafar. It of course had to do with Clinton being there, Secretary of State. I'm sure they got a donation. As always, the way these things worked when Clinton was in charge, money went to her foundation, and all of a sudden these people got a corresponding thing, just like the pay-to-play that we found. Same deal all the time. So that's something we definitely need to keep our eyes out and stop. Now, the next thing, we have Syria, right? People are talking about the gas attacks, which are sad, seeing kids and all that stuff in the videos. And just like the time before when we hit them with a Tomahawk missile, I think we need to do as a country way more investigation in this. And there's a lot of things we need to do. One, we need to have way more investigation. How do we investigate? How do we know Syria did it? You have people telling us Syria did it. And I'm not saying Syria is good. Don't get me wrong. Well, what I'm saying is it doesn't make sense why Syria would do this. They're not losing any ground. They're winning their war. and they know they're being watched. So to do this, they know it makes other countries against it. If they didn't do any gas attacks, let's say they didn't do any, and life went on, most of the public doesn't care then. That's a civil war, let them fight amongst their country, and that's it. The Assad regime lives on. But with these gas attacks now, most countries are against them, condemning them, and a lot of them are asking the U.S. or the UN to do something about it. It just seems fishy why they would do it. Like, it doesn't make sense. They're not losing the war. Why would they do this? I mean, are they that dumb? I don't think so. And then we have the conflict of interest. See, John Kerry and Barack Obama both told us that they got Syria to give up all their chemical weapons. So how are they getting more? Or was that a lie from Kerry and Obama? Another lie that we were told. Now we don't know because they're both dishonest, Kerry and Obama. And so maybe they never got rid of these weapons, chemical weapons, and so maybe they are doing it, but we don't know. I don't think we have enough proof to say either way, and this could be a big mistake. And Trump's in a no-win situation here. You do something about it, now we have a problem with Russia. And I know people, Russia, get them, collusion, whatever. Fighting with Russia is not good for us. One, they're not some little country who can't get over here and attack us. If they wanted to attack us, they could, and they could do damage. Are they going to beat us? No, but do we want to risk maybe 50 million people's lives just to prove we're better than them? It's not a wise. This is a different ball game, okay? Think of it in a sports analogy. This is like most of the time when we're going against little countries, like when Clinton was going against, Libya, Hillary, or Bill Clinton wanted to bomb the aspirin factories in Croatia or Serbia. That's different than what this is. This is like, the Yankees going to play a single A team. That's fine. You can experiment and do whatever and, engage with them, whatever. Now you're playing a major league team. So you want to play around, they can do damage against you. It's not worth it. If we don't have to do it, we should avoid all conflicts. In general, I'm sure it's not like they want the conflict, so I know deep down inside they know they're going to lose, but they also have the only thing that Putin has is to show that he's strong. And so sometimes these guys spite themselves and will attack just to show they're strong. So we got to outsmart them. And so that's why it's a very complicated situation. So one, if I was Trump, I'd get as much knowledge and investigation as I can, and I wouldn't believe some of these clowns that you hear from. That's number one. And Bolton wasn't the right guy to bring in. That guy is just a warmonger. We got to watch out. We got to be sure. And then number two, if it is, without a shadow of a doubt, if it is found out that it was Syria or Russia with the chemical weapons, then we should step to the UN and tell them they're going to do something about this. Not us. It's not going to have our fingerprints on it. The UN needs to do something. Will we help? Yes. But with the UN, that brings in the other countries, and they need to put some skin in the game. They need to have their sons and daughters in on this if the boots are going on the ground, and they need to have their money in as well, helping fund the missiles, the missions, and the equipment. If the UN does not want to do anything, if they're going to be silly and, whatever with their fake talk and whatnot, then we need to back out of the UN. Because what's the point of having the UN, right? It makes no sense. So we're giving them all this money, and when it's time for them to take some heat and to bring the people together, they're not doing it. Then we might as well get out of the UN, save our money, isolate ourselves from all that, and then we'll deal. If we feel a need that it was truthful, that it was Assad and something, we can do it on our own. If we're going to do it on our own, then we might as well. But to sit there and do everything, and then we're still paying the UN, and we're not getting the people from the other countries that are just telling us, like Israel, they need to put some skin in the game. Don't tell us to bomb Assad. Don't tell us to do all this stuff, and you're not putting any skin in the game. Sorry, but we don't need our kids to get over there and get killed. It's easy for, people to sit behind a monitor or whatever, sit at your talk show, sit on your TV, like these jackasses that tell us, yeah, let's get Putin. Yeah. Why don't you go out there and get Putin, right? Why don't you go out there? Why don't you start driving the planes? Why don't you go out there and shoot off some missiles? Why don't you get your boots on the ground and start shooting somebody? It's not a winning situation. War is not a winning situation. Even if you win a war, it's not winning. I'm not totally against war because obviously sometimes you have to do it to stop stuff, right? You got to do it to stop Hitler, stuff like that, definitely. And if it's getting to this point, we need to stop Assad. That's fine. It's a necessary evil, but like I said, if the UN's not going to do their part, let's get out of there. Stop wasting our money and time. And we put the pressure on the UN, which is putting the pressure on the other countries, basically, to come into this. We need to be united as a front, and if they don't want it, then we're going to have to rethink this. Now, to show you how pathetic the UN is, so Syria's just gassed their people, quote unquote, right? So if the UN believes this, why do they have Syria is going to chair a UN disarmament forum on chemical and nuclear weapons? Are you serious? I mean, it's an upside down, right side up world, I guess. It is, and I'm wearing the appropriate shirt, right? Stranger Things. It's the upside down. It doesn't make sense. How is Syria, who you're just saying gas their own people, going to be the chair on the U.S. Disarmament Forum on Chemical and Nuclear Weapons? I mean, could you think of a stupider thing? I don't know. I mean, I guess we could, but only in dealing with these. Unbelievable. UN is just worthless. We need to get out. But like I said, give them their chance. Like I said, that's the end of that. Enough, like I said. So let's move on to one of the dopes of America, Maxine Dirty Waters. Now, she's calmed down a little bit with the impeach 45 thing, and we wonder why that is. She'll say it whenever she can, whether it's at a funeral, at an event, or whatnot. But I think we know why now, due to our good research here, why you haven't heard her in the public that much. And here it is. It was almost June will be a year. So Maxine Dirty Waters was pleased to announce that she had preliminary plans for the 2020 Los Angeles Urban Development Program. It's called LOA. So beginning January of this year, she was in communication with various local groups, including CARE. We know what CARE is, right? CARE is a recognized terrorist organization. They were a co-conspirator. So they were a co-conspirator. So CARE LA and Hussam Ayyaloush, who have been instrumental with regards to refugee housing and resettlement project. So remember, that was under Obama. And we saw some of that here in Arizona. There's a hotel up the block and $200 a night rooms, and there were busloads of refugees right outside there because they stayed the night before in the hotel room. $200 a night minimum. And how nice that all these adults, gangbangers, got to stay there on our taxpayer money. So anyway, Hussam, Ayyaloush, and CARE LA. So they had, obviously, the other CARE and Hussam were part of the Refugee and Housing Resettlement Project in Minnesota. So they wanted to implement the same federal program East, South, and Central Los Angeles. So California's 43rd district, which is Maxine Waters' territory, will have no problem accommodating 41,000 refugees in agreement with CARE's relocation project. Now, why is CARE involved in a relocation project? Well, there could be many reasons. Number one is their care is a co-conspirator against America, so maybe they're helping the invasion. You always see it's women and children, but really, most of these people are war-age males. If you ever look at the pictures closely, just like the caravan, oh, it's women and children. Yeah, there's about 10% of them up front, and pregnant women, this and that. And you look behind them, what do you see? You see 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, 27-year-olds, all males, all ready to go, part of the unnamed army. So they said the majority of Somali refugees are going to house in the district's new condominium and apartment units funded and underwritten by One United. The election cycle has begun, and Maxine needs your support. Therefore, she feels it would be best to announce the plans after the elections, and perhaps even once she secured a Speaker of the House position. That's very interesting. So it's such a good deal for the people of LA that good old Maxine Dirty Waters didn't want to announce it until after the election, and perhaps she secured a Speaker of the House, which, thank goodness, never happened, and it will never happen, her being the Speaker of the House. Sorry, Dirty Waters, not happening. But you see the fraud. So this program is going on right now. They're infecting LA even more. Now, unfortunately, Maxine Dirty Waters is, never changing her dirty tricks. So, what do we got today? Here's a good one. Wisconsin State Senator Lena Taylor, and she is a Democrat, but let's just irrelevant of the party, appears to have a history of making nasty comments. So when we know conservative, somewhat, a little bit shaky conservative, Sheriff David Clark, announced his retirement, this Democrat, the state senator from Wisconsin, said that Clark was abusing the people he served. She said, "This is truly a good Thursday. I want to thank Sheriff Clark for his decision to step down. After years of abuse at his hands, the people of Milwaukee can sleep soundly tonight." That's interesting. Interesting statement. Abuse. Now, he actually did his job. When he was actually sheriff, he was pretty good at it. So here she is, Lena Taylor, again, making some comments. Now, she was at a bank the other day, and representative of Milwaukee, she received multiple citations for disorderly conduct. The police were called to a Wells Fargo bank on West Wisconsin Avenue. For an unrelated call, they happened to be there in the area, and obviously the bank said they needed help. She got into a dispute with a teller who refused to cash her $831 check because she didn't have enough funds in her account to cover it. So like anybody else who has an account, you go to cash a check unless you don't have enough money in your account, they're not going to give it to you all in cash. But witnesses allege Taylor, that wasn't the only thing. Witnesses allege Taylor, who herself is a African American, she said that the teller is a house, the N-word, because she was following the bank policies. So the Milwaukee police officers overheard Taylor berating the teller and intervened. A shift lieutenant arrived on the scene shortly thereafter and reviewed the bank security footage, issued Taylor a municipal citation for disorderly conduct. It comes with a maximum fine of $500, but it isn't considered a criminal violation. So a spokesperson for the senator would issue a statement, but I haven't yet seen that statement. So it's not the first time now with Taylor's allegedly lost her temper. She was ticketed in 2009 for crossing the center line, and she didn't hesitate to rip Milwaukee officers who pulled her over. She had told the officers that they shouldn't waste their energy to stop, that and she can't be expected to wait for a light. So she's above the law, basically. She's better than you and I, and she shouldn't have to stop at lights. Now, here's somebody with a history of abuse and a disgrace, Lena Taylor, Democrat, you know. So we had the big news today, I shouldn't say today, the other day, that Trump's lawyer, Cohen, his office was searched, his house, his hotel, his house under renovation. So maybe he's trying to hide those stormy documents underneath the new floorboard. You know, they've violated the constitutional privileges, rights, I should say, shouldn't say privileges, rights, of not only Trump, Donald Trump, but also of Cohen. I mean, all they're trying to do is get to see what they've been saying to each other and see if they can use anything, because they have nothing on the collusion, they have nothing on, they have nothing, and Mueller's just going to keep on throwing darts at the wall till he finds something, and he's either going to arrest somebody close to Trump and then try to squeeze him like he did with Manafort, like he did with Flynn. He tried to do it to Jared Kushner. I mean, he's been around the table, so now he's getting even more desperate. So now he's going to go after a lawyer. So they're supposedly going to have an independent person look at the communications between Trump and the lawyer and see what they find. Yeah, I'm sure they'll find a paper on there that says, yeah, I lied and cheated and whatever. I mean, it's just a fraud. They have no crime still that they're searching. Mueller made this referral to New York to search Cohen stuff, but what's the crime? There's no crime. I mean, even if they say that he paid Stormy Daniels, who cares? You know how many, payments there are like that from Snoop Dogg and many other people that are famous? Payments for actually people who harassed girls, where Stormy said it was consensual, and she's, if anybody, broke an agreement, which she still showed no evidence of. And even if this lawyer did pay, there's nothing illegal. I mean, who cares? It's just stupidity. I don't know. I don't even know why, they'd waste their time paying her money. I mean, even if this chick comes forward, yeah, I mean, she just sounded like a dope. Oh, Donald Trump's really ugly, and I didn't like him. He's dirty, and he's not attractive, but I had unprotected sex with him multiple times. Yeah, well, that sounds like somebody that's intelligent. I mean, really, Mother of the Year material there. I mean, when you're saying that story, don't you think, God, I sound like a dope? But, whatever. I mean, she don't care because she's getting her minutes of fame and she's going to make money off of this. And the news is just salivating over, oh, we're going to get something here. Yeah. Sorry. So, they had the women's march the other week. And it's funny because some of the leaders of the women's march, like the Linda Sarsour and stuff like that, they're firm supporters of women into slavery, women into prostitution, against their will. I mean, some of them were involved with the Backpage.com. We know how that got taken over. The government shut that down. And even on the Twitter, it said the shutting down of Backpage is an absolute crisis for sex workers who rely on the site to safely get in touch with clients. Now, how would you even say it's safely get in touch with clients? It's not safe. It's not safe. I mean, me personally, I don't care about prostitution. It's your body, your choice, right? So that's fine with me. You do what you want. But if they legalized it, would actually make it safer. Now, it's illegal and it's not safe from getting your contact info from Backpage. And it's not safe because Backpage has no policing of what's going on. So girls that are underage, girls that are being drugged and forced into the industry, which is many, especially in big hub towns like Phoenix, they can't police that. They don't even have the means to, nor do they seem to care, Backpage. So that's what you have here. And the Women's March to stand up for that, that's what we're standing up for. It's a crisis for sex workers. No, it's an actually easy stream for underage prostitution. That's what Backpage was. And the government should be going after that. They should be going after pimps. But in the coming days, the Women's March movement will be sharing more about sex workers' rights to uplift this critical issue. We're still learning, as always. We have to listen to the voices of those most impacted. That's ridiculous. Totally absurd. We'll put that in the absurd column. But what do you expect from, degenerates? So the FBI notified Judicial Watch, who's suing them, that it's going to take 3 years to process and hand over the Peter Strzok Lisa Page communications. How funny, after the next election. Why? Why would it take that long? 3 years is not a reasonable time. I'm sorry. It isn't. We had, Chappaquiddick. So last week we went over how horrible, these people trying to glorify Ted Kennedy. I was reading some article about Ted Kennedy being a rapist as well. We remember Ted Kennedy let Mary Jo Kopechne suffocate to death in a car in a pond because he refused to call the police. He actually went home, took a shower, probably tried to sober up because it was probably, if he got stopped there, he would have been drunk driving, I'm sure. And, this vile piece of trash was the icon of the Democrat Party, the icon of helping illegal immigrants gain legal access to this country, and considered to be a champion for women. That shows you what sad state of affairs are in that party. I mean, man, I know on the right side there are some money crooks and people who couldn't care less and spend like drunken sailors, but wow. We had Michelle Obama last week talking about how her husband is a good parent compared to Trump. To be honest, I never really seen him parent his kids. All I see is his oldest doing drugs, being here, being there, being places without a parent that she shouldn't be. I don't really know what a good job is. A few photo ops, yeah. But even with her own words, Michelle Obama, right? She says that Trump's, the sexual abuse he have, or Trump talking about sex, has shaken her to her core. That's what she says. Okay. Shaking your core, firstly, ridiculous exaggeration. You don't agree with what he's done? Yeah, I wouldn't agree with some things. If he cheated on his wife, it's disgraceful. Okay, that I could understand. Shaken to the core, and why would any of that shake you to the core? Seriously. But here's somebody who talks about Beyonce. There could not be a better role model for her girls than Beyonce. Beyonce? That's a role model for your girls? For what? Infidelity? Getting abused and taking it? Letting your husband cheat on you? That's like saying Hillary Clinton could not be a better role model for my girls. Actually, Hillary Clinton almost might be a better role model for your girls than Beyonce, because think about it. Hillary let her husband cheat too so she could get some power. Although, in her case, Hillary would have had no power without Bill, where Beyonce had power on her own, but she lets Jay-Z screw around, so I don't understand what she's getting out of it. But then again, with Hillary, I don't know. They're both, at least Hillary could teach her daughters how to cheat, steal, and lie more and make more money than Beyonce, who, if you can't sing, she can't teach you how to sing. I don't know. Both are not role models for anybody that I know of. Whichever you want to say about that. But speaking of her husband, Barack Hussein Obama, the guy who never had a smidgen of corruption. Let's see here. We'll take 3 minutes to get in some smidgens. I can't even touch the surface of this guy. But we know how he illegally armed the Mexican drug cartels and ISIS militants, right? Operation Fast and Furious. They were selling guns to Mexican cartels to try to circumvent and show that the Second Amendment in our country and our dealers were lackluster and helping, just basically helping people in Mexico get killed with their poor choices of who to sell to. When it wasn't them, it was the government stepping in and telling them to sell to these people. But they knew damn well we're going to kill people, which, killed many Americans with those guns. But Obama even authorized shipments of guns to Syria opposition, right? That's ISIS-linked militants. On the same day, he had the nerve to come out and demand more gun control. Not a smidgen, though. So obviously he tried to use that to shut down gun stores. The Bank of America told gun companies that they no longer wanted their business. They're still today. They even came out with something the same way. Okay. So Obama spent taxpayer money, right, to resettle illegals inside the U.S., whether it was shipping in from Mexico, Somalis, whatnot, all those $200 a room nights, right, that I talked about, are taxpayer money without any consent from anyone in the government. He did that on his own. He tried to use his pen and his phone to enact gun control without congressional approval. He wanted private sellers to conduct. He said there were loopholes. Not the case. When you go to gun shows, they run background checks. I don't know what gun shows he's been to, but remember with the IRS, they targeted conservative groups. It was admitted. A Lewis Lerner never faced any punishment. Obama met with IRS officials who were involved in the targeting right days before. He told them to target these conservative groups. Obama knew about it. He was there. His people did it. And if he was against that, then he would have punished these people, where he didn't. But, not a smidgen, right? Remember, Obama got phone records of Associated Press journalists, 2 months of telephone records of reporters and editors. Unprecedented and unpresidential intrusion. Obama had the biggest spy programs ever. For a guy who was transparent, he wasn't really transparent what he's finding out about you or your neighbor or somebody who worked in this industry or some political opponent, right? He carried out that military intervention with his buddy Hillary Clinton in Libya without any congressional approval. Yet they want all congressional approval with Bush. They want it with Trump. So he violated the Constitution when he launched military operations in Libya. Now, the government faith-based programs, Obama expanded the federal faith-based programs, which Bush started. The Patriot Act, Obama renewed it and expanded on it. And wasn't even honest how much he expanded on it. 4 U.S. citizens were killed without judicial process, right? Obama had 4 U.S. citizens killed. It was an impeachable offense. No explanation for it. Boeing hired 1,000 new employees to work in a factory it had in South Carolina in 2011, and Obama ordered the company to close it down because the factory was non-union. You also know that Obama took money from citizens, teachers, police officers, and not the way you think, but during the Chrysler bankruptcy, Obama violated the Fifth Amendment and more than 150 years of bankruptcy law by illegally treating secured creditors worse than unsecured creditors. So, the secured creditors are people that had an asset to back it. They're supposed to be paid first. And he didn't care. He actually sold those companies to his union buddies, and people actually had stock that was supposed to be backed up. They're supposed to be paid first. Got nothing. Sadly, I know not only from reading it, from hearing about it, but I actually know some victims of it who had, $100,000 in stock and got nothing. They were told, I know you're first. I know you have secured money here, but you're going to the back of the line and you will get nothing. Sad but true how he defrauded people. So enough about that. Wraps up another show. I'm sure there'll be more exciting things that come out this week. Thank you for listening to Reality Check with your host, Ben Shenneman, here with you every Tuesday night. Have a great, safe, and awesome week. Enjoy.